Is it your turn, Jonathan?
It's my turn to want to fucking leave.
Time to go over the latest Little Baby album. My turn. It's his turn. He called his mom up and she said it's his turn with the Xbox. Little Baby Atlanta MC quality control artist. Which I was actually surprised because for the longest time I thought he was part of Young Thug's. Young Thugs, what is it? It's the Young Stoner record label. I thought he was part of that, but Young Stoner Life Records. But apparently he's always just been quality control. He's a running mate of Gunna, who the two of them put together Dripped Harder in 2018. Album I could never fundamentally finish. It's just so intolerably boring. I can't even explain it. Like, Little Baby is so nasally and just like unapologetically boring that it just brings me to tears. And when you add Gunna, who's someone who's just so nerdy and uncomfortable on these tracks, it just made for a colossal storm of just terrible. It was so boring, so flawed, such a mess. These are like D-list rappers on like just a terrible track or just a terrible album that I could never stomach all the way through to finish. And then following it up, we got Gunna's Dripper Drown 2 last year, really nerdy, so flat and boring. And I was really expecting when the next Little Baby studio album would come out and what kind of effect it would have on the mainstream, if any, because Little Baby seems like the more popular out of Gunna and him. So I was praying that whatever he dropped, one, what wasn't popular, and two, was maybe good, because like he has some features the last couple years that have been tolerable. I think out of the two, he has the most potential to be probably the more tolerable on features. At least on the last Jack Boys album, the Schoolboy Q album from last year, I think he's either ironically bad or tolerable, or ironically good or tolerable.
You got neither of those things
on this album, yeah. On this album, he said, My Turn, he says, I called it My Turn because I feel like everyone else had a little turn. It's my turn now. Everybody dropped their mixtapes, their albums, go number 1, go number 2, go number 3. Now it's his turn. So this album's a commercial success.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. 12 of the songs off this album reached the Billboard Hot 100 chart, which gave him a career total of 47 songs on the chart. Here's the kicker. Putting him at a tie with Prince and Paul McCartney. Just let that sink in for a second. Prince, Paul McCartney, Little Baby, all on the same level.
And you know what's probably saddest about this?
What?
He will make more music. Prince obviously can't. Paul McCartney isn't making good music.
Paul McCartney shouldn't.
Yeah. So he will most likely surpass him. He will make more music, it will go that high up, and he will surpass them.
So what is this album? Well, it's 20 songs, 1 hour. And it's an album that fundamentally broke me.
There is one thing that I will give this album credit for. It lets you know what you're in for from the exact moment you read the first title, because you know that it's about to get ugly.
Yeah, the first track is called Get Ugly, and I think Jonathan's experience with this album is more better than mine. So I think I would like to explain your first listening of this album.
So I listened to this album on my way to record something with you. I put it in my playlist for albums to listen to for the reviews. It was right after Wasted Shirt. So I finished Wasted Shirt because the drive is longer than that album. And then Get Ugly started. And then right around that time, I got a headache. Like a really, really bad headache. And every moment of those few minutes trying to drive. It took me five of those tracks to finish up, and I would put it at about like 15 minutes. So those last 15 minutes of that drive was pure torture. This album gave me a headache, made my eyes hurt, which I was driving, so that was a bad thing. And just generally offended me by how bad it sounded. Because Get Ugly has this horrible, horrible auto tune that's so badly used that it just turns into a pure grating, scratching on your eardrum.
Yeah, Little Baby's autotune on this sounds like my ears are getting blended together with a cheese grater.
And the mixing is so dense in a bad way. Like, you can have dense mixing and like noise music where it adds like texture. This is dense in a way that Captain Beefheart would fucking cream his pants over. Because it is dense and grating in a way that is just so fundamentally painful to listen to, because it doesn't boost anything, it doesn't create a texture, it just creates nails on a chalkboard in music.
So what you're saying is this is a true experimental masterpiece.
No, because whereas Captain Beefheart created that gratiness for like complicated song structures and weird tempo shifts, this created it purely by just making bad sounds and just layering them on top of each other with no regard for quality, enjoyment, listenability, humanity.
He broke the Geneva Conventions.
This album is a war crime. Because people joke all the time about, oh, this album's torture, you could use it to torture people. You could use this album to torture people because it is physically painful to listen to. This album makes me feel bad for every other album I ever gave a 0, because retroactively they are all 1s now because they don't deserve to be in the same category as this album.
So what is wrong with this album? If I do explain it in the bass core, the production is not the thing that's wrong with this. It's just a bland, basic trap production. It doesn't dilute anything. It doesn't complicate anything. What is wrong about this album is Little Baby. The key feature to the Little Baby album should be Little Baby, and the key thing wrong with this album is Little Baby. One, he's at times so quiet, it is so fundamentally boring, and at times he is so nasally and weirdly pitched that is ear-raking. His lyricism is so generic, so unmatchedly boring that there's nothing to what he's saying. And even in bad, like, I had a hard time finding something that was like at least notably funny to like list off. Because like recently I listed off a couple lines from the Little Uzi Vert album that were like funny to like ironically like, look at this, how bad this is. There's nothing on here from his delivery that like stands out.
And the thing was, even if there was things on this album,
you couldn't tell because his delivery is so flat across the board that there isn't any like noticeability to anything. There's nothing that stands out.
But not even that. Even if it was noteworthy, everything in the delivery of this is so ear-grating that it would suck out any funny or enjoyment factor that you could get from those lyrics.
Yeah.
Because at least in like 93 Punks is saying something incredibly fucking stupid in a hilariously bad way, it doesn't physically hurt you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you just want to shut it off because of how awful it sounds. That you can find enjoyment out of how shitty it is. There's so much in this album so fundamentally unlistenable that you can't even try to get through it to find things about it to make fun of. It's just bad.
Little Baby doesn't bring himself down. He brings everyone else down with him. The features on this, you got Gunna with Heating Up. Fundamentally, the pairing of them just showcases why their last collaborative album was so terrible, because they literally bring the worst out of each other. Gunna is more nerdy and boring. Little Baby's more pitched and annoying. Like, the two fundamentally should not even be in the same room together, because I think it brings the worst qualities out of each other. Like, fundamentally, there's no reason why these two should collaborate ever again. You have Future, who is honestly kind of fine. Like, that's the most decent one on here, I guess. But it's like there's
Kind
no,
of relatively fine because look at the things he's being compared to.
yeah. Little Uzi Vert is boring, which his last album, Eternal Take, was bad. It was terrible, but I wouldn't consider it maybe boring, because fundamentally you had this goddamn annoying frontman on top of it that was always like either spitting like something really shitty and like almost laughable, or just like there's these weird fundamentally strange production moments at times. So it was bad, but it wasn't boring. But on this, he's so toothless that I'm confused. Where's the Uzi Vert that I've where's the little Uzi Vert that I've come to know? Where is he on this? Because it's just empty. It's just an empty performance, which maybe in some ways could be considered a blessing. But compared to the Little Baby, I at least wanted something that was enjoyable.
I think because of his feature on this, we need to require him to change his name to Lil Squirt Gun Vert because he does not have the teeth or the backing up to go by Uzi anymore.
That was terrible.
I know.
Little Wayne is doing the same shit he did on Funeral, where it doesn't sound like Little Wayne. It doesn't sound like something you would get out of the hip hop bling era, or the guy who revolutionized kind of pop rap in the mid 2000s. No, this is just someone who is copying that trend, but Little Wayne now copying the person who copied him. So it's a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox. He doesn't sound like himself. He sounds like he's trying to replicate himself, almost some like artificial AI. And when he blends together with Little Baby, it becomes the most mind-numbingly excruciating thing imaginable. His nasaliness, Little Baby's pitching, just extraordinarily awful. And then finally, Young Thug is just so unnoticeable that it hurts on here, which is I don't know how you did it, but you did it somehow. Young Thug was just able to flash by my radar on one of these tracks. This thing is an hour long. It was pulling teeth. When I got 4 tracks in, I wanted it to be done. There was nothing rewarding, even in a negative way, about it. There's nothing ironically fun about it. There's nothing, I guess, exploratorily fun, or I guess newly fun about it, in the sense of it's creating something so bad that it's new and innovative. There's like no innovative bad qualities. This is just, it is just the trend of trap stretched out to the most uncharismatically boring conclusion that we're getting to. It's like, this is now peak trap.
The only, yeah, like that's the thing. This album alternates between complete boredom and just ear raking garbage. Like there's no in between. There's nothing to get out of this album because you're either going to be bored out of your mind or you're going to be in pain listening to it. So you can't even call this like an essential atrocity because there's no reason to listen to this.
It's not, because there's no ironic or even fundamentally thing in society, I guess, or even in Little Baby himself that kind of like gives it a reason to exist. It's just like it's a trend. Like Little Baby progressed the trend of like peak track and like peak like emptiness in trap to where I thought we already reached with like Gunna's last project, or even like the thousands of other culture 2 even. Like these tracks don't feel finished. There's nothing standing out about them, and there's no outs. There's no good production on this thing, like in the sense of it, like it's able to take up from the space of Little Baby. Not that I think the production on this thing is completely terrible. It's just basic trap, but like it can't save Little Baby from himself, so it technically is bad.
And that's
Yeah.
The only way I could accept this album as being something worthwhile is if Lil Baby literally came forward and said his goal was to kill trap music as a trend by bringing it to its ultimate awful conclusion.
This album would also benefit from Swedish songwriters, features, trap beats,
Oh, it has features and it didn't work.
and it has trap beats, so maybe just Swedish songwriters.
Just needs some Swedish
It's
songwriters.
100% uncut rock, maybe. Maybe a Billy Joel feature or two.
Yeah, this album would have benefited a lot by just being the Green Day album, and that says something.
Yeah.
That album's terrible.
Keep in mind the scores if you tell me this right now. I'm feeling just like a 0.
This is a true zero.
But like not like a true 0 and like Russ absolute 0, because that's kind of like breathtakingly nothing. This is just like I don't know. We need to come up with some like new score, like almost it gets to the point of like a -1 in some regards.
This is a true zero because there is absolutely nothing in this worth paying attention to.
Actually, I think this is rock bottom.
This
That's
is
what I'm gonna
this
give
is
it.
rock
This
bottom.
is rock bottom.
This is musical rock bottom.
This is Dwayne the Rock Johnson's finisher. We are here.
An album that makes me feel the need to apologize to Logic for being too harsh is absolute rock bottom.
Logic tried. I'll give him that. He was warning us all along. Don't be afraid to be different.
Yeah.
Gosh.